In a bright, high-building courtroom, where morning sunlight streams in, illuminating a bright glint in every speck of dust, lots of which drifts in sunbeams, a prick of stillness lures on a possibly unnoticed nail. When inside, an overwhelmingly quiet, motionless atmosphere is hard to ignore. There is a palpable tension there, almost to be touched. Kody Brown is seated in a plaintiff's bench, his fingers clenched on a table's edge, turning his knuckles bright. Every breath is loud. Every pressing of his feet on a floor is a drumbeat of a signal. In his row, Robyn is seated, visibly attempting to calm down, straightening her back, making a proud gesture, yet her hands pace agitatedly on a bag. Across the room, Christine is fussing with the cuff of her jacket, her eyes flitting from the judge to the empty seating in the gallery, waiting for the cameras. Her lips purse into a tight line as she tries to contain the tempest of thoughts that have been building in her for weeks. Janelle is leaning in close to Meri, whispering something that barely registers. Her voice is strained with worry. Meri's eyes cut to the front of the room, calculating. There is something in her expression that shows her already plotting. The room is heavy with unspoken words. A soft shuffle precedes the entry of the judge. He is a serious man, with a towering presence and exacting movements, as if the weight of his authority precedes him. The gavel rings out, one resounding crash. The silence unravels, but the tension lingers, like the eye of the storm that dare not speak its name. Kody's lawyer stands up, holding a thrice-piled document in his hands, his voice shaking with the weight of his passion. He begins to lay out the argument, the promised promises, the secret implicit in the contract, the betrayal that no one could ever have foreseen. With each word, the impact is like a rock in a pond, rippling through the silence with shocked whispers. "They can't just accuse me like this," Christine growls, her calm facade faltering. The shake in her voice reveals her carefully constructed calm, and Robyn's gaze shifts just enough to register this observation, though she does not react. Janelle holds her hands together nervously in an attempt to remain calm, while Meri sits back in her chair with a fixed gaze. The first witness will now testify. It's one of the children, someone stuck in the middle of the turmoil in their family, and now being dragged into the spotlight by the cruel realities of a courtroom. The child's hands shake as they describe events that had always been kept behind closed doors. Events so trivial in the past, but now taking on monumental significance in the spotlight of legal examination. They talk of muffled conversations, secret meetings, and acts of betrayal that didn't make headlines with the outside world looking on. Rodney Brown's jaw clenches tightly as he listens intently, nodding his head from time to time and attempting to keep his emotions in check, while his betraying eyes tell the real story inside his tortured soul. Meanwhile, Robyn Brown keeps her cool to the surface, but occasionally catches herself with a quivering hand clutching her purse. Christine Brown leans forward intently, with narrowed sights and a low-pitched and biting tone. "This is something I never thought would happen to me." Janelle gets a turn to testify. She speaks calmly at first, talking about promises made in secret, heartbreaks suffered, and miscommunications that had hung around like specters for so many years in the family. "We did our best to keep it together," she whispers almost to herself, "but sometimes love fails." The gallery listens to her in stunned silence, as if every person there feels the impact of what she has to say. A judge sits forward, his eyes narrow, interrogating the family with questions that dig deeper than anyone could ever guess. Every response reveals more anger and pain, more hurt and more regret, forcing Kody, Christine, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri to confront truths they've avoided for years. The emotions build, a tidal wave on the horizon, ready to crash at any second. But in the real world, rumors are buzzing inside and outside the courtroom walls. Journalists whisper about bombshell secrets, while families share their theories on social media, and fans of the television show ponder what could possibly be going on inside those courtroom walls. But inside the courtroom, it is much, much more than rumor and hearsay. Here, a family is having their very fabric torn apart for the entire world to observe, analyze, and judge. However, what happens next is even more personal. One thing led to another, and it blew up into some sort of screaming match, Janelle continues. It ended with unspoken accusations and lingering anger. But it hasn't remained in the past. Sometimes the truth slips out, regardless. Robyn takes a sharp breath, a moment of tension relieved, while a flicker of guilt passes over Christine. The judge sits and listens, expressionless, but the slight furrow on the brow denotes concern. The defense attorney starts connecting the dots for the judge and the courtroom audience, and the picture that is being formed is that of a family disintegrating. The walls are closing in on the family members, and each glance and each muffled conversation is packed with emotion and suspicion. Suddenly, however, the bailiff calls for a recess. The courtroom empties out, but the tension remains in the air. Then the air outside is electric with rumor and speculation. Kody takes a step back, his phone in hand, and a single message illuminates the screen. He stares at it in shock. A message, a revelation, a possible game changer for the whole trial. Christine observes from across the room. Robyn has noticed too, brow furrowed, attempting to decode the look on Kody's face. Janelle leans close to whisper to Meri, though even this is eclipsed by the power of what Kody is viewing. A hush settles over the space, punctuated only by the distant hum of press outside the courtroom doors. Kody's hands are shaking slightly as he wraps his phone away. His mind is racing. Calculations, fears, and doubts are all colliding at once. The secrets that have been teased and hinted at and teased out are soon about to rise out into the open. Each and every person of his family is holding his or her breath, and they aren't ready for how much of an impact this small and seemingly inconspicuous text has in terms of unleashing all of the pending volatility that has been hovering just below the edge of control for so very long. As the recess comes to an end, and the Browns are ready to head back into the courtroom, there is a palpable feeling of anticipation. The storm is on the horizon, and not a single soul is prepared for what is to come. The courtroom is filled once again, the energy palpable, as if the courthouse is holding its very breath. The courtroom doors swing shut behind the Browns, and an electric tension permeates the room like a chill fog. Kody's gaze ranges across the room, alert and cautious. Robyn sits beside him, her fingers linked, knuckles white, as she strives to maintain her calm facade amidst the maelstrom of her emotions. Meanwhile, across the courtroom, Christine adjusts her jacket and affects a possessive arrogance, though her gaze dances with fear. Janelle's hands are tangled nervously in her lap, while Meri lounges back and observes, analyzing. "We call our next witness," proclaims the bailiff, signaling for another witness to come forward. No one saw this name even being considered, yet it was an old friend of the family who had always hung back in the shadows for so many years. Just that they're there creates a buzz among the audience. EPS. Lesson plan leaders find people to blame. Authors: Jane Wilson, Michael Saines, Jane Wilson, author, Alice. The testimony begins reluctantly in the witness box. The witness talks of talk not kept, of threats made and then forsaken, and times of tension long thought buried out of mind by Kody and his wives. But with every utterance, the courtroom leans in a little further, a bombshell with each passing revelation. Christine's mouth sets, Robyn's hands are clenching and unclenching underneath the table. Kody's face goes white. His heart races. Suddenly, the witness holds out a series of texts, screenshots of conversations between people he knows are still in love with his father and his sister-in-law. The courtroom responds with waves and bursts of shock, gasps and whispers and gaping mouths. Kody leans in intently to process these texts. He's desperate to make some semblance of understanding from the betrayal revealed in these texts to him now. Christine's hand smacks sharply against the table. Robyn's eyes close, as if willfully stopping herself from disintegrating within the confines of the courtroom. This changes everything. Christine breathes silently to herself, though loud enough that a few people in the gallery hear her. Kody doesn't react. His eyes roam over the evidence, analyzing the underlying deceit. Every word, every parsed sentence from the witness is like a fracture in the thin veneer of family solidarity. The DA narrows his focus, firing off sharp questions at the witness. Who sent these messages? What were they saying? When did all this happen? The answers from the witness are deliberate, and pieces of time and dates are shared, experiences believed to have had a guarantee of privacy and security. Robyn adjusts her sitting position. She whispers to herself, This isn't how it was supposed to happen." She looks at Kody, who is expressionless, nearly impossible to read, but the hint of fear betrays him. Just then, Christine's snappy answers pepper the atmosphere in the room. "You think this is over? You don't even know the truth?" Her words rise slightly in volume, shaking with emotion. Janelle moves forward, and her testimony becomes even more personal. She speaks about an old confrontation that had taken place months ago, the specifics of which had never been made known to the world. She begins with a shaky voice, and then it settles, as the weight of the truth resonates through her. "I tried to protect everyone, tried to keep the family together," she says with tears welling up in her eyes. "But some things, some truths, cannot stay hidden." The judge leans forward, his eyes narrowed as he drinks in each word. "This testimony is very important," he utters in his deliberate speech, "since it brings to light the actions that have had irrevocable consequences." The courtroom had never been so quiet, with only the rustling of papers and the sound of the air conditioning humming in the background. Every breath, every look, every whisper carries the promise of an impending discovery. Next, the witness gives the envelope to the witness stand. Kody's hands go into a freeze frame as the envelope is delivered to the table. The envelope is small and unassuming, but its power is great nonetheless. Robyn lets out a puff of air, as if in expectation of the contents. Christine leans forward, her eyes wide, her fists clenched. Janelle holds on to her knees, as if to keep from toppling over. The envelope is slowly opened. Inside, there are photos, other pieces of correspondence, moments of secrets that no one in the Brown family wanted to see in court. It is a personal, secret, and incriminating correspondence. Kody Brown shakes in his fingers, going over it. Christine's face erupts in red spots. It is a mixture of anger, shame, and helplessness. Robyn Brown's lips press tightly together, praying she could make it through this nightmare. "Answer that," the prosecution asks Kody. He stands, speaking firmly but low, trying to hold on to what is left of his composure. "These revelations, they're tough, yes, but they don't define who we are as a family. We're a complex family, but families are complex. We're a loving family, and families are loving. We're a loyal family, and families are loyal. We're a family that loves each other deeply, and families do that too." This last part undermines some of the anger in the room, but not the angst. Christine cuts in, speaking quickly and shrilly. You think you know it all, but you don't. This is like a blade through the silence that cuts back into the courtroom. There are gasps from the audience. Christine presses on, painting a tableau of private scenes and battles, scenes that merely seemed like unfulfilled prophecy to Kody. You all think you can grasp it, but it's worse than anyone has any idea, she exclaims. She's angry, terrified while speaking. A powerful scene. Janelle follows this by taking a moment to speak, her voice gentle but firm. We've lived with secrets long enough. It's time for the truth to come out. No matter what happens. These revelations include conversations that Janelle had previously recorded, showing that her long-held suspicions were true. The confession is calculated but also highly emotional, making Kody squirm uncomfortably in his seat. Robyn's fingers are clutching her purse, but her composure is slipping away. The room is being appraised by a very observant Meri. The gallery is in shock. The journalists are writing furiously, the lights are blinking occasionally, and the audience at home would be literally grasping their seats, finding no way to tear their eyes away. This testimony, coupled with the appearance of the envelope, has set a time bomb ticking, just waiting to go off. Just as the session is about to reach a pause, the courtroom doors swing open unexpectedly. A figure appears, a new player who has never been seen before and is totally unexpected at this point. Gasps ring out through the courtroom. Kody freezes, narrowing his eyes. Robyn's mouth opens in shock. Christine sits back in her seat, with her eyes widened in shock and her hands shaking slightly. Meri's expression is mask-like and unreadable, but there is a glimmer of recognition there. The judge leans forward now, his voice deep and imperious. This new evidence. This new witness. Full disclosure must be made before this court can proceed. The tension is electric. Every member of the family is on edge, knowing that what happens next could radicalize the entire landscape of trust, loyalty, and deceit within their families. The courthouse seems smaller now, fraught with a tension so thick it feels like the very walls are closing in. Kody sits at the plaintiff's table, his jaw tight, his eyes darting from Christine to Robyn, then Janelle, then Meri. Every look holds weight. Every twitch of features is deeply analyzed. Robyn's hands lie neatly folded in her lap no more. Now they shake slightly, her calm veneer betrayed. Christine hunches forward, tapping fingers on the table, a pointed edge in every play that bodes ill for what is going on within her. Janelle sits quietly, her hands tightening around the edges of her chair as she tries to muster the courage to say what comes next. Meri, ever observant, leans back with arms crossed, her gaze slicing through the courtroom as though she can see the deepest secrets of all who had come before her today. The gallery holds its collective breath, for this session is where everything would begin to fracture. The envelope that was sealed during the last session now lies open on the table, and its contents have changed everything. Photographs of tender moments, secretly done messages, and various recordings show a level of appreciation nobody had ever expected would come into the courtroom. Kody falters slightly as his hands touch the photographs. While his usually steadfast composure wanes, Christine flushes with anger in her face, her eyes ablaze, a mixture of shame and fury. Robyn bites into her lip, trying to hold her composure, while Janelle swallows hard, with tears welling up in her eyes. The prosecutor already leans forward, voice measured, yet razor-sharp. "Mr. Brown, are you aware of the implications of these materials?" Kody takes a deep breath as he tries to anchor himself. I understand," he says quietly. Each word heavy with tension. But the full context, then there's more than meets the eye here. RP/period. Christine cuts in, her voice slicing through. More than meets the eye? You think this is a game? You've been blind to what's been happening under your own roof. Her words echo in the room, murmurs quickly spreading through the gallery. The judge bangs his gavel sharply, though it only seems to heighten the emotions, not dampen them. Christine presses on, describing a fateful confrontation that unfolded in secret months ago, where tempers flared and trust began to crack. Her voice rises, shaking with anger and fear. You all pretend to know me, to understand what I've sacrificed, but the truth is far more complicated and far more painful than anyone could have imagined. Kody is very much on the defense, his voice calm yet firm. I did everything humanly possible to protect this family. But secrets. Some things weren't meant to be hidden forever. With a glance toward Robyn, she nods subtly, with her own turmoil mirrored in her eyes. Janelle swallows, about to deliver her testimony, a confession that will either save or destroy the fragile bonds left intact. Janelle stands slowly, her voice shaking with a slight tremble. I kept things from you, from all of you. I thought I was protecting everyone, but maybe I was just protecting myself. Some truths, I was afraid they would tear us apart. Her words hang heavy in the air, and for a second, the courtroom is silent, the weight of her admission processing in every mind. Meri leans forward, her sharp gaze fixed on Kody. Do you really think you understand the consequences of these actions? Every choice has a ripple effect. Her tone is measured, almost clinical, but cuts deep, a verbal scalpel exposing vulnerability and guilt. Kody presses his lips together, slowly nodding, knowing she's right, but unsure of how to respond. Next, the prosecution asks for additional evidence, something held back until now. A tape of a private conversation between two family members, where one reveals alliances and strategies that no one in this courtroom has expected to hear. Gasps ripple across the gallery. Robyn's eyes widen in shock as she registers the betrayal. Christine leans back, a mix of relief and triumph crossing her features, her eyes blinking rapidly, while Janelle's hands are shaking violently, clutching the edge of the table. Kody stands tall, attempting composure, voice low but firm. We're all human. We make mistakes, and we hide things. Not out of malice, but because fear and love get tangled in ways we can't control. His words resonate, but Christine will not be placated. She is tart. Love? Fear? Those words don't erase what's been done behind our backs. The judge interrupts, his voice foam clear and authoritative. Order. I need everyone to remain seated and focus on the facts at hand. But even his authority cannot temper the tension in the room. Every face is taut, every heartbeat amplified, and the gallery leans forward, sensing the storm about to break. A hushed accusation cuts through the air. The person from the gallery, an invisible onlooker who has been quietly chronicling the events, produces a picture from a private meeting. In it, Kody is with one of the wives in a seemingly unguarded, intimate moment. A buzz runs across the courtroom. Robyn's face constricts as her jaw clenches. A slight smirk plays on Christine's lips, her eyes sharp with satisfaction. Janelle's mouth forms a soft gasp of shock and hurt. Meri's face is expressionless, though her eyes gleam with calculated interest. Kody shifted forward, his voice measured. Yes, that was a private conversation, but context matters. Not everything here is as it seems. Deliberate. He struggles to recapture the narrative, but his words are too late. The evidence has already planted a seed of doubt in all of them. Christine gets up, her eyes ablaze with anger. We have all pretended for far too long. Secrets, lies, hidden agendas. The family you think you know? It's been falling apart under your nose, and now everyone sees it. Her voice breaks slightly, showing the raw emotional strain she has been holding back for months. The gallery moves forward, electric with anticipation. Janelle follows this with an equally powerful but quieter revelation. She recounts another secret conversation, one she recorded as a protection against the family, but which actually serves only to let more duplicity into the light. Her voice breaks, threatening tears. I did not want to hurt anyone. I really didn't. But the truth, it has to come out no matter what now happens. The courtroom is hushed. Even the judge seems to be momentarily arrested by the weight of the disclosures. The prosecutor presses on, painstakingly weaving the threads between testimony, pictures, and audio. The story unfolding before all of them was more complex and shocking than could ever have been anticipated. Robyn, in barely an audible whisper, tells Kody, "We must remain calm. We can't allow this to break us." Kody nods a little, and his eyes give away the storm brewing inside, full of anger, fear, and a feeling of betrayal. Christine scoffs, feeling a chink in the armor to exploit, whereas Janelle shakes, her emotional well almost dry. Meri watches silence, but razor-sharp, eyes scanning and analyzing for just the right moment to strike. Finally, the judge calls for a brief recess. The family heads outside, as each of them processes what has just been exposed. Kody's hands are shaking as he massages his temples. Robyn breathes out slowly, trying to steady herself. Christine smirks faintly, torn between triumph and exhaustion. Janelle leans against the wall, taking deep, shaky breaths, while Meri remains composed, though her eyes flicker with calculation. The atmosphere in the courtroom is full of tense anticipation. Every face scrunches with pressure, each movement labored and overanalyzed. Kody Brown sits in the plaintiff's table, back straight and interwoven hands, a desperate attempt at composure. Robyn sits beside him, wide-eyed and pursed, trying desperately for a placating calmness. Across the room, Christine leans intently, sharp sight and grit-plugged jaw, a barely held-together fount of anger. Behind him, a shaking Janelle grips her chair rim, as a seemingly clueless to all-around happenstances Meri lounged back and as unreadable as a rock, and twice as sharp. This hearing will cover newly offered evidence and witness testimony, says the judge, making his entrances into chambers like a man of consequence, reminding the room that it has his attention. This hearing will cover newly offered evidence and witness testimony, he continues, his voice calm, while the tension in the room crackles like electricity. Every word rings out in the thick silence, every vibration of his lips echoing through the room. Every face in the gallery leans forward, breathing in preparation for the storm that they all know is going to break. A clerk comes forth with an envelope he hands to the judge. The envelope is sealed with a name that makes Kody's jaw lock. Robyn looks at him, noticing his tense muscles. Then, he notices the smirk on the face of his sister, Christine. Looking anguished, his sister Janelle whispers, "This could ruin everything." The seal is broken by the judge. There is a series of documents and pictures. These have all been kept from the courtroom. There is an immediate reaction from the gathering. There are gasps throughout the audience. Kody takes each document in individually. He takes in the meaning behind it. There is a tightening of Robyn's grip on her purse. Christine no longer smirks. She looks confused. Janelle's hands shake strongly. Meri looks calm. Her eyes narrow. Retention booster line. Members of the court, this evidence shows a series of private communication and meetings which suggest there is purposeful deception. We ask you to weigh this evidence seriously. The courtroom erupts into a heavy silence. Each of the family members reacts differently to the import of this evidence. Fear, anger, guilt, and betrayal have twisted together in a painful knot. Kody rises, his voice steady, but shaking slightly. I did not realize the full meaning of these occurrences. Our family has experienced challenges, but the truth will come out, whatever the difficulty. His words ring with conviction, but there is a glimmer of incredulity in Christine's eyes. Challenges do not include conspiracies and backstabbing. Can't you see what's going on here? She cuts in. Robyn leans forward, her hands reaching out to gently touch Kody's arm, her voice low but reassuring. We have to stay calm. No matter what happens next, we face it together. Even as she speaks, her voice is full of reassuring calm, but also an unseen sense of desperation, as if she knows what happens next could very well change everything. We face it together, Robyn repeats, her voice full of conviction, her words bringing a sense of reassurance to the situation, but her words fall flat against Kody, who nods slowly in an effort to compose. Janelle stands up to give her testimony, her voice shaking, at first and then growing stronger. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, but I just can't remain silent any longer. There were things that happened, actions and conversations that occurred that were kept from the rest of us. It's time for us to face the truth. The impact of her words resonates like a hammer in the room because of the vulnerability evident in her tone. Christine leans back, her voice heavy with sarcasm and anger. Finally, you see the damage that's already been done. What about us? What about the consequences that we all have had to live with all these years? Her eyes scan the room with disdain, her glare fixing on Kody, then Robyn, then Janelle. The courtroom is charged with electricity, and the sound of the judge's gavel is the only thing that's keeping time from standing still. The judge breaks in, his voice strong but measured. Order, please. Let's stick to the facts and the testimonies that have been given. Emotions are running high, but this remains a court of law. However, his urgings do little to alleviate the tension in the room. Every member of each family feels the weight of scrutiny bearing down upon them like a gathering storm. NP. But then, out of nowhere, the prosecution produces another piece of evidence, that of a recorded phone conversation between two wives, strategizing on building alliances, planning, and blowing each other's covers. The recording is played on a loudspeaker in the courtroom, and there is a mortifying silence as all the women's secrets hang in the balance of a very public and very candid discussion. The soft intake of breaths as they hear the women's revelations reverberates across the courtroom as they take it all in. Robyn shuts her eyes, her teeth digging into her bottom lip. Kody shifts in his chair, a hair's breadth, head cocked, as he tries to take in the meaning of what they're all talking about. Janelle's eyes widen in a desperate hold on her composure. Meri's features are impassive on the surface, while her mind frantically calculates the impact of all of this on her life. Kody erects himself to calm the storm around him. We all have flaws. We all mess up. The truth is necessary, even if it's painful. Christine lets out a harsh laugh as Kody's message falls flat in her mind. Flaws? Mistakes? What, Kody? Some of the things being said here are intentional. How can you stand there and tell me that this is a mistake? Janelle then spills out yet another secret. She relives a secret meeting that was held months ago to address the conflict, but ended up uncovering secret interests and backstabbing. She speaks while her voice shakes with emotion, and tears welling up. I thought that by keeping it under wraps, I could save everyone involved. I was wrong. The truth needs to come out. The courtroom bursts into action, the media scribbling furiously away in their notebooks, cameras flashing spasmodically, and whispers echoing through the courtroom. Every revelation holds the family at the breaking point, forced to grapple with the consequences of revelations kept secret for so long. "We can get through this, together, but we must hold on," Robyn whispers urgently to Kody. Barely audible, Kody nods, takes a deep breath, trying to compose himself while the courtroom waits with bated breath for the next big blow. Christine leans back, a smile appearing on her face once again, knowing that she is capitalizing on the situation. But now the tears are flowing freely down Janelle's face. Meri is calm, her eyes scanning, computing. The judge pauses, reflecting on the documents and testimonies at hand, and turns to the courtroom, saying, "This hearing has brought out a lot of evidence and testimonies. Clearly, trust in this family has been badly compromised. The court now has a lot to think about." These are words dripping with meaning, resonating throughout the silent courtroom. As the hearing approaches the end, a further envelope has just been passed to the judge. Last-minute evidence that has emerged. The murmur of gasps spreads through the courtroom as a further revelation is made, as images of times thought to be hidden, which could irreversibly change the image of the family, are revealed to the world. Kody sits forward in shock. Robyn grasps his hand for comfort. Christine gasps in shock, and Janelle's knees threaten to give way to the emotions that are tearing at her control. With Meri's eyes hardening already, poised to strike, if need be, the hearing is adjourned for today. The judge thunders, his gavel pounding into the silence that falls, his eyes boring into the men as all of their eyes are focused on Kody. The courtroom is full of an uncomfortable silence. Every face is strained. Every gesture is deliberate. Kody Brown is seated in the plaintiff's box, his shoulders square but stiff, his hands clasped tightly together. Robyn is seated beside him, her lips pressed tightly together, her fingers interlocking nervously, her calmness struggling against the intensity of what has occurred. Christine is leaned well forward in her seat, her jaw clenched, her eyes narrowed, a tempest of anger and vulnerability raging behind her well-controlled behavior. Janelle is holding on to the edge of her seat, her hands shaking in a struggle to maintain her control. Meri is leaning back in her seat, her arms crossed, her face impassive, her eyes darting, calculating, analyzing each fleeting expression of her family members. The judge emerges from the shadows, ending the awkward silence. "We have heard a lot of evidence, looked at a lot of photographs and messages, and listened to a lot of recordings. This case is unprecedented, and this case has very profound consequences. The court is now going to give its findings." His words are like a spark of electricity in a charged moment, creating a ripple effect of anticipation and fear. Kody takes a deep breath, trying to focus. He looks at Robyn, finding the support he needs in her quiet, steady eyes. She tightens her grip on his hand, but her fingers are not steady. Back in the room, Christine straightens up, her piercing eyes narrowed in fierce concentration on the judge. Janelle's lips tremble as she whispers to herself, as if praying for the damage to stop. The eyes of Meri narrow in quiet calculation as to what will happen to her as well as the others. The judge has started reading the verdict carefully and carefully, taking his time so that every word counts. After careful consideration of all of the evidence, testimony, and circumstances brought before this court, it must be acknowledged that several members of the family were involved in actions that led to misunderstandings and hurt. It is the decision of this court that responsibility must be accepted and that reconciliation is called for whenever possible. The court highly recommends that there be mediation and family counseling. A collective sigh is palpable in the courtroom. A mix of relief, tension, shock, and exhaustion. Kody relaxes his shoulders slightly, and hope whispers through. Robyn takes a slow breath and pushes her hand against her chest, as though releasing all the pent-up air from the past several months. Christine's expression is more difficult to read, and then her eyes widen and focus on the words before her, and then shift away, perhaps considering her next action. Janelle lets out a small shaky laugh that holds remnants of tension and relieved resolution. Meri's eyes sparkle with hidden pleasure. But her composure is still secure. Just as the court is about to adjourn, the clerk hands the judge another paper. All eyes stop moving. Kody's eyes widen slightly. Robyn's body leans slightly forward, and Christine's jaw clenches. Janelle's hands begin shaking as they grip the table's edge tightly. Meri's eyes don't fool anyone. A new twist could change the course of her life once more at this point. The judge studies the document carefully, and then looks up. This final statement has information that had not been previously revealed, but is essential for the reunion of the family. It has a letter from a member of the family, talking about reasons, fears, and remorse. It is requested that it should be read aloud in court, the judge declares. A silence descends into the courtroom. Kody swallows hard, the pressure of anticipation bearing down on him. Robyn's grip on his hand tightens. Christine braces herself. Janelle takes a slow breath, her eyes locked on the letter. Meri's poised, her calculations in motion. The letter is read aloud. Of secrets and unnamed fears, of sacrifice and miscommunicated intent. Every sentence builds layers of pain and misconnection. The voice is penitential but strong, taking fault but placing no blame. The courtroom is entranced as the emotions burst forth. Kody feels a stinging sensation in his eyes, and Robyn struggles to hold back her own tears. Christine's eyes are momentarily startled, and Janelle emits a soft gasp of a sob. The lips of the ninth wife, Meri, compress into a line, her eyes shining with minute emotion. As the words end, there is silence in the courtroom. This silence is not empty, but the silence that follows a storm, a silence thick with emotional meaning and unseen possibilities. This is when Kody, for the first time, speaks, his voice steady, if soft. This is a help to read, to see our weaknesses, our errors, our secrets laid open before our eyes. Robyn leans in close to him, whispering, "We are stronger than the mistakes. We can rebuild." Robyn's voice is calm and deep with emotion. Christine sighs explosively with frustration and grudging acceptance. Janelle wipes a tear from her eye and releases pent-up tension. In spite of herself, Meri relaxes her gaze only slightly. The judge nods in understanding and ends the matter definitively. This court hopes that today's revelations will give healing a foundation to build upon. Though accountability is necessary, it is for you to chart the course for the future. The gavel bangs down. Ripples echo through the courtroom. Kody exhales, a wave of relief and exhaustion washing over him. Robyn squeezes his hand. Christine stands up, her shoulders weighted down by the burden of reality. Janelle takes a trembling breath. Meri gets up with fluid motion, her face inscrutable, yet full of conviction, apart from the above parts of the courtroom. Cameras click and voices blur as reporters speak quietly among themselves. Meanwhile, outside, the world hangs back, waiting for a take on this story of secrets spilled, lies revealed, and a family struggling with its own complicated realities. Kody steps forward, bringing the wives with him for a fleeting gesture of unity. Robyn leans on him, their love strong enough after this trial by fire. Christine's eyes meet Kody's for a fleeting instant, acknowledging their reality. Janelle takes a shattering breath. Hopeful, despite what has happened. Meri is silent, lost in thought, already planning what happens next for herself and this family. The press vortex around them, cameras flashing, lighting up exhausted but unbent faces. The Browns come out from this battle in the courtroom, shaken but alive. They all bear the weight of secrets exposed, yet they also share a sense of being bound together by the fragile, complicated, and tempered tie of blood.